Okay, thank you for coming to the Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council meeting for January 12th, 2015. If everyone please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. I'd like to turn it over to Secretary Tuttle. Thank you for a roll call.
Beth Dugan, Pioneer Town, is absent. We haven't gotten an official letter. Elizabeth Carmen, present. Mike Lipsitz,
President Landers.
Mark Lundquist, Joshua Tree.
Present.
Pat Flanagan, Desert Heights. Here. Gail Suarez, Morongo Valley. Here. Myself, Copper Mountain Mesa. Here. We expect, we don't have anybody for Wonder Valley, and we expect the next meeting to be able to swear in Liv Koenig for Flamingo Heights.
Did we say that right?
I know Liv, I said it right.
Okay, thank you very much. Adoption of the agenda. There is one change since the agenda was distributed, and that is item H. Item I-1 was about concerning an agreement between the Bureau of Land Management and the Sheriff's Department. We were lending our support to a plan for them to sign a memorandum of understanding for cooperative agreement so the two could cross into each other's jurisdiction. And Captain Munder is not here tonight, and he asked just for a little more time on that. They're working out some details, and so we have tabled that till next month. Okay, so that's item I1, tabled. Other than that, any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to...
Make a motion to accept the agenda as is.
Okay.
Second.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda is as it stands with the correction. And then approval of minutes from December 8th meeting. They're on the back of your agenda. If you're in the audience, if you didn't pick up an agenda when you walked in, they're on the table here. Hi, and those coming in, there are no comment cards over there. If you'd like to make a comment, there's some sheets of paper there. Feel free. Name and topic. Any changes to the minutes from the last meeting? You have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting?
Second.
Great. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We accept the minutes as presented. At this time, we'll take public comments. And that is for if anyone from the public would like to make a comment on an item not on the agenda, but within our jurisdiction, please. Hi, Tom. I know Tom O'Kee. Please be my guest. Yes, I've got your card.
Thanks. I just want to make a quick announcement about the bobcat situation, that the Fish and Game Commission is going to be making a final decision as to what's going to happen with the AB 1213 law that the governor signed. And as maybe you all know, that the governor strengthened the law. He extended what he would like to see happen, and one of the options that came up at the December 3rd meeting in Van Nuys was the opportunity for the Fish and Game Commission to adopt a statewide ban on bobcat trapping. And that means a simpler thing for the commission to try and enforce through the Fish and Wildlife Services, because it's become very complicated, the costs of being able to administrate this law. covering all the different parks that they'd have to try and put boundaries around and so on. So they're going to be voting on this on the consent calendar on February 11 and 12. And the comment that the commissioners made to us at the December 3rd meeting was bring your people. And it was obvious that there was a tremendous amount of support for a statewide ban on bobcat trapping. And the commission's going to want to hear about that from everybody. And if you're in support of the idea that a statewide ban is a good idea, there'll be a lot of information on projectbobcat.org. If you just go there, there'll be sample letters and there'll be ideas as to who you're going to write to and ask them to please make a statewide ban on this. We don't want people killing our bobcats anymore. Thank you.
Almond Fleck?
I wanted to bring food, but I had to bring this. This is my show and tell. I haven't done that for years. But the topic is Wonder Valley roads. And in other communities, I know you don't have any grading apparently, and we have overgrading. So we could give some time maybe, give some time to other communities and trade our overgrading grader. Apparently the roads in Wonder Valley had been repaired at one time, and this is the stuff that is used. This is called GeoWeb. It stretches in each direction that you want it to, and it's a little bit covered underneath the roads, and it holds the sand together. It's beautiful stuff, but it's coming out with the overgrading. And that needs to stop, and I wanted to ask the MAC for some help here. You do such wonderful work with the whereas, and let it be known, resolved. And I need some help with this. What has happened, even though the taxes that are that have been voted on, and we lost that fight for a new grader, the moving equipment, and a full-time position, and we had already overgrading on the roads in Wonder Valley. The dust issue is one very seriously with silicosis, and it's just nasty stuff. And so the air quality, when I want to burn wood on my property, I always get, no, not today. And I say, why? Because there's no fires. In the summer we get that. It's the air quality in Wonder Valley. So we don't need any more of that. And that this is pulled out of the roads. They get deeper and deeper, and the berms get higher and higher. So high that now the grader goes right on top of the berms. So that is a whole nother road on top, okay? And that is more sand that is volatile. And also I noticed that the roads are being widened. It's like we're turning our roads into boulevards, and I don't see why. Again, it is a misappropriation, I think, of taxpayer monies. And we have to pay now for the loan, because they couldn't wait till the next time, and pay, what was it, $4,000 for interest? Help me, was it $4,000? No? Well, you sent me something. Anyway, there is a fee now. It's interest. We were paying interest. The public was not informed of that. And I think that's a really serious thing.
We know that Supervisor Ramos, now the chair, and I'm very happy about that, but he's very much for transparency, and there is no transparency about what is happening and why. So thank you very much. Let me pull this out a little bit more, and you can touch it and so forth, and pull it out. But this is what I found on 2 different roads. There must be more because these are small pieces.
Your mic is off.
These are small pieces, actually. There are signs that say geo-web. So, you know, they are totally ignored, and the grading goes on, and there goes the stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. We'll look into following up on that next month. Okay. Bob Carmen, Dr. Carmen. Followed by George Kopp.
It's tough to follow show and tell. Let's see. Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now? Yes. I have several email conversations with people in Joshua Tree that I know.
Deep it to your mouth.
Oh, okay. Voice actuated. And one of them is Jack Fuller and I had a conversation about. I got to keep talking or my act goes away. About the definition of rural. And so I went on the net and I found 13 different definitions of rural from the federal level. And what I found was that they all defined rural as a deficiency. You know, oh, you don't have enough people per square mile, or your hospital doesn't have an X-ray machine or an MRI or this or that, the other. And so, you know, living in rural, all of us look at rural as something very positive. We wouldn't be here otherwise. We like it here. It's not just environmental in that esoteric sense of all the great natural resources and so on, but we like a little space between us and the next guy, etc. So what I'd like to do is invite people to a dialogue about what is rural. And I would like to see eventually that come into some sort of maybe a one-page document, what we really value as rural, and send that to the supervisors. So I'd like to see that. Not that it means anything, it certainly won't cost anything. So contact me. My email is bcarmen@gmail.com. Thank you.
That'll work well with the other definition. What is a tortoise? From last one. Thanks to Marina. Yeah.
Put them on both sides of the paper.
Thank you. Mr. Kopp, followed by David.
Well, oh, it's working good. All right. I'm here to make a comment. Make a comment about this Caltrans project that we've been reading about. Gary Daigneault posted something on Facebook. Evidently, we're going to get some left turn lanes on the highway towards 29 Palms. And if you were to say to me that, George, you don't know what you're talking about, you'd be absolutely right. I have no idea what's going on. I drive that route every day. I live up Sunfair, and I look and I see, what are they trying to do? Because it looks to me like they're trying to do left turn lanes to what is basically dirt roads with no development. And maybe there's one at Sunfair, but I don't know, because they said Coyote Valley, and Coyote Valley doesn't even intersect with the highway. I really don't know what's going on, but one thing I do know is that they have a deadline for the comment period, which I think is like February 3rd. So I believe that we need to extend that deadline and get Caltrans in here to explain what they're doing and what the cost is, because it's going to be high. We just did that little piece of sidewalk on Park Boulevard. I think that was $100 grand. And this is, there's going to be 12-foot expansion of the highway on either side and all this stuff. It seems like $1 million to me. So why they're spending all this money to do these left turn lanes, why they're needed, and without explaining what they're doing, and then they ask us for public comment. This is not acceptable. And I know that the MAC is not going to have a meeting before then, so I'd ask you, Mike, as the representative, to talk to Ramos and just ask him if he can make a phone call and get an extension, because it shouldn't be hard to do. Point one. Point two, 5 years ago, 2009, I stood here as your predecessor, the Joshua Tree MAC, and made a big presentation for a traffic signal, or at the very least a crosswalk at Sunset, which is also a Caltrans issue. And the MAC voted in favor. I was representing the chamber at the time. The MAC voted in favor of that initiative. Nothing was done. Well, I shouldn't say nothing was done. Caltrans came, they sent 2 representatives, they addressed the community, and they told us they couldn't do it, which is okay. At least they told us they couldn't do it. But I think that the situation has changed dramatically in the last 5 years. I think anybody knows that, and we've just seen a big article in the paper that tourism to the park is way up. Anybody who's been in Joshua Tree knows it's going crazy. It's great. This is economic development. They say we're anti-growth. Ha ha. We have growth here in Joshua Tree. We have a new business over on the north side, the coffee company in the Starlight Building, new owners of the Trading Post. We need a way to get people from one side of the street to the other, legally and safely. Because anybody knows, I saw people, we had a big opening, I guess it was Saturday night, JTAG and all second Saturday. People running across the street in the middle of the night. This is no good. Caltrans needs to address this situation, and the county can really help facilitate that. And I'm done.
Thank you for your comments. The sidewalk was about half that, but there are comment cards for the Caltrans proposal, the plan to put these turn lanes in, and they're over on the table here, and also with instructions on where to comment to. And we'll see if we can't get them out here.
Instructions on what they're planning to do.
Yeah, there's a description. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is most of Highway 62 has a center lane for turning, and this would complete that for the stretch, because where accidents happen is where they don't have that center lane. Not positive about that, but that's what I think. Mr. Fick?
It's on? It's on. Can you read me?
No.
No?
You're kind of talking to it sideways.
You do.
Okay. Now we can. David Fick, Joshua Tree, and 2 things. One, last time I was up here at the podium, it was announced that Dollar General had been appealed by the Dynamic Development, and which represents Dollar General and the county, I suppose. And we had a meeting here December 18th regarding the Dollar General issue, and not that we, let's see, the way to say it would be, yes, we put in some paperwork on the appeal situation, and it looks like there's going to be what's called a cross appeal. And a cross appeal is when we decide, well, right now, they're appealing the economic study factor of the EIR, and if they win on that, then there's no EIR. We're cross appealing on several subjects. We haven't decided on which ones yet, but traffic and the economic study are the 2 strong points. There's several others going on. Also, I'd like to make a slight comment on the highway situation. It seems to be piecemeal, hopefully, that the 4 additions that they're doing to the highway with Caltrans are going to complete the center median, because we do need a center median all the way down the middle. And since they're trying to do this, hopefully the 4 parts are completing the center median all the way down. I don't know if they are. I'm not that intimate with the highway, but I've been out here 28 years, so I should be. But another problem with the highway is if they're widening this highway 12 feet, then they're going to have SCE do something about the, the power poles and the easements. And SCE should really look into, maybe the MAC can do a whereas, telling SCE to widen the easements for the power poles. Because right now, there's a lot of times when the power poles are less than 10% of an angle to the traffic way, and that's how they take them out. So if you get the power poles, say, another 10 feet away from the highway, there's a lot less probability of them being taken out, which they average about, what, 10 a year, 10 or 12 a year? Highway Patrol probably could tell us how many. That's it for now.
Leave it on.
Thank you for your comments. Marina West on Morongo Basin Conservation Association.
I'm not sure if I'm stealing Pat's thunder, but I thought, take this opportunity to let you know that on January 24th from 9 to 1 in this room, the Morongo Basin Conservation Association will hold its annual meeting, and our keynote speaker this year is Valerie Simons, currently serving as Chief of Resource Management for the Bureau of Reclamation's Lower Colorado region. She's also retired Lieutenant Colonel with the Marine Corps. Her presentation will be Communities, Communication, and Empowerment, a conversation on strategies for effective environmental engagement. And then we will have, subsequent to her talk, a panel discussion which will include, panelists will be the COW Alliance for Responsible Recreation, Victoria Fuller. Project Bobcat will be presented by Brendan Cummings. Transition Joshua Tree will have Joe Fairbanks here, and the Landers Association, who has appealed the S-Power project, will have its leader, Richard Luttringer, to have a panel discussion about those issues. Thank you very much.
Any other public comments? Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments for items not on the agenda? Okay. If we could hear now for public safety, and tonight we'll hear together from Lieutenant Eric Robles and Lieutenant Russell Wilkie, and Rick and Lieutenant Rick Millard. I'm sorry. Is what? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Lieutenant Robles. I know Joan's usually here. She's actually in Sacramento today. Actually, this week training up. We need to get her to continue her training, so she's up there this week. So I got voted in to speak tonight. Anyway, first of all, I'd like to wish you all Happy New Year. I haven't seen you since the last MAC. Unfortunately, right at the end of the year, we did have 2 additional fatalities within the region. One involved in a solar marine accident, and the other one was Aqua 247. One fatal accident for us, obviously, is way too many. And again, I like to, and they were completely unrelated. No alcohol investigation was related to this whatsoever. But it's always a concern for us when we lose a local or anybody else out of the motor vehicle business. So please, slow down, use your headlights, use your wipers when it's bad weather. And a lot of times when we scrub off speeds, our injuries and our fatalities begin to lessen. So remind your loved ones and you yourself, and I know I do this to my family all the time, so make sure you please slow down. Okay? Secondly, I'd like to announce that we did exceptionally well with our toy drive this year. I think we reached our goal of 1,000 toys, and I want to thank all of you who participated in that. We made a lot of kids happy. I got to participate in a couple of those events where we dropped toys off, and we had a great time. And I can't thank you enough. If you ever get the opportunity to help us with donating, please help us, because we've been all using it. It's something to give back to the community. It makes us all feel local. I don't have anything other than that. If you have any questions for me, I wanted to come up here with Lieutenant Wilkie. We actually became pretty good friends as we've been here, so we want to be appreciated.
It helps too, because some of the times we've been up here, some of the questions that come up might have been more suited for one or the other, and we've already sat back down. So this might help, I hope. I also wanted to echo what Eric said. I haven't been at one of the meetings for quite a while. Dale Monderry's been kind of showing up. He apologizes for his absence tonight. He's up at the 29 Palms City Council meeting, so he asked me to come in his stead. Again, same thing. I want to wish everybody Happy New Year. To echo what Eric said, please wear your seatbelts. Please tell your family, especially because, and I know same for the Highway Patrol, but of all the things there are, it truly bothers me to go to a traffic accident. It's usually some innocent person, and I can just picture it as being one of my own family members. It really bothers me a lot. Please don't talk on the cell phones. Please don't text. That can wait 5-10 minutes till we get where we're going, and please wear your seatbelts, because it's tragic loss that I don't like seeing it, and I know no one else does. On a positive note, something else that's going on, well, it's positive, I guess. Sergeant Millard would probably not feel so, but toward the end of the year, we compile all our stats for the end of the year, and the department puts together an end-of-the-year report. So hopefully by the next MAC meeting, I'll have very accurate stats for your crime rates and things like that that have gone on in your areas, and it's broke down for every area. Hope to have that ready for you by the next time around. And wanted to take the opportunity, I said sorry for him because he's the one I'm harping on to get those stats in. Sergeant Collins, who was up here for a very long time, many of you maybe even know him, he's done most of his career here. He was transferred and he's down now at the Ukaipa station. He was my administrative sergeant, and taking his place was Sergeant Millard, who again has been here most of his career, I think. So he's adjusting to that assignment, and at the end of the year for the stats probably a little overwhelmed, but I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce him, let everybody put a face with a name if you haven't met him before. And other than that, I don't have anything either. Did you want to speak?
The only thing I would pass is we've just gone through the Christmas season and New Year's where we're kind of hyper vigilant about theft, cars being occupied with Christmas presents. The only, if I had to make a pitch, it would be please don't let your guard down. Don't, oh, okay, we don't have that problem anymore. We always have that problem. Please, please, please be mindful of your surroundings. Dark parking lots, but particularly even in our own homes, we're talking about rural and how the lighting isn't always what we'd like it to be to make sure we're safe. So be aware of your surroundings. Always have, there should be no one in the free world anymore without a cell phone. So please have that with you if you need to call. We'll get there absolutely as quick as we can. But if I could put a pitch in, don't drop your guard regarding the thefts. Lock your vehicles, lock your homes. And then it won't be long, just a very, very short time, the weather will start warming up again, and we'll have the issue of lighting around our homes because the people that are out with nothing good up their sleeve, out doing their thing. So please make sure our areas are lit, our homes are safe, and some of you I see, and I'm glad to see those folks I get to see once in a while again. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, and I look forward to coming to these and chatting with you about various topics. So please hit me up. I'll be happy to take notes and do what we can to help out. Thank you.
So everybody, you're going to come up together?
Well, we agreed with it, but we're not sure about Dale.
That's what I was wondering. Who's
We're
going
going
to
to
share the
him tonight
spotlight?
and see how it works.
Okay. We'll play it by ear. Thank you.
Sir?
Yeah, I hate to bring it up, but we had a couple of homicides in our neighborhood recently. Probably a barn and a guy up off in California. There's been no news. I wonder if you guys are close to getting somebody, or is there someone running around out there we have to be aware of, or what's going on with this?
What I can tell you on this is, I don't think there's anyone running around that you need to be aware of. Once a homicide happens like that, the case is turned over to our homicide team. They work out of a specialized division down in San Bernardino. They assume that entire investigation and take it from that point on. I'm not looking for an out, but I don't know any more than what you probably do to be able to tell you. They take it and they go with it from there. We don't interact with them anymore locally unless they contact us or need something from our end. What I can do is try to see if I can come up with some information like that and maybe have it available the next time we come to a meeting, but I don't have it available at this time. From what I do know about it, I don't think there's any persisting issue that you need to be concerned with, if that helps.
I know we all running around, you know.
I understand.
Just be vigilant. I can't emphasize that enough. Watch what's going on around you. Be aware of your surroundings, and have a plan. If somebody comes running out of the bushes, have some sort of plan. Know how to dial 911 without watching. Know where to go if something, go see a lit area, a well-lit area, scream and yell, honk your horn, whatever you have available. Have a plan. Don't, now what? Have deer in the headlights. We want no deers and no headlights around here. We want everybody with a plan. I don't want to turn everybody into, all crazy about, am I not safe? It's not that. But we will be safe if we do those things to help ourselves. We'll be much safer.
Thanks. Other questions?
For the highway patrol, the four-way stop by Friendly Hills Elementary, I kind of park at the top, so I avoid all the chaos usually. that I have a conversation with a crossing guard, and it's unbelievable how many people just roll right past the crossing guard, even when they're in the crosswalk. One person actually said the crossing guard had a little sign that, had the stop sign. Oh, well, the word stop was pointed the other direction, which meant they didn't have to stop for some reason when the crossing guard was in the crosswalk. And that's pretty common now. So it sounds like about twice, every time they're there, there's at least 2 people that just go right through. And there's kids around. This is like during the drop-off and the pickup. I know you guys are there, and obviously we see you, but honestly, I'm just wondering if you want to have someone just standing there pointing at the sign, like, duh.
Well,
or during the drop-off and the pickup.
Is this for the morning or in the evenings or both? Or?
Both, yeah,
okay.
both times.
I have 3 kids, and they're getting a little bit older now, and I understand this is the beginning of the school year, and this is something as a parent that I've recognized at all of the school drop zones that I go to. And you're absolutely right. This is very typical, but having that information, now I can put a unit out there and have them patrol that a little more regularly until things settle down and people find out where there are parking spaces going to be, because it always seems like a certain parent likes to park at this particular location and pick up their child, and they have a certain way they once they find their way, it usually calms down, but I will add some extra patrol out there. Thank you for the information. And it doesn't have to be at a meeting. You could always call our CHP office, and we're open Monday through Friday, and we have these.
It tends to be just, people like going through.
Sure. Well, we're probably not going to stand there and point at the sign. We're probably going to do a little more than that. Yeah, that tends to work pretty well too. And other people, they see the unit, they see somebody on a traffic stop getting a ticket. Hey, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And that's very effective. But thank you. I'll make sure I put somebody else on that.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth?
That's my ears. Tonight we have. Hello? You're on. It's on? Yeah. Doesn't sound like it. It's on. Okay, tonight we have Susan Petro has come to talk to us. She is the director of the Telecrisis Center, and the Telecrisis Center is very important to this community. Bob and I can't be working 24 hours a day, and we couldn't possibly handle everybody. But Susan's Susan's establishment does handle things 24/7. So I would like to introduce Susan Petro from the Telecrisis Center in Yucca Valley. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks, Dr. Bob Carmen, for inviting me to speak with you about. This is a little. Oh. Speaking to you, to talk to you all about passing the knowledge of the services we have in the basin now for mental health individuals that either are having difficulty with serious mental illness or just mental despair, in a sense. And that's what I sort of would like to talk about a little bit too, about our service and our agency, because I think, I'd like you all to also think what happens in your neighborhoods and in your streets if folks are having trouble with their kids, they're having trouble with their finances. When we talk about mental health, sometimes we think automatically to very persistent, serious mental illness, where I think all of us can maybe admit to having sometimes not good days, okay? So we're Telecare, Morongo Basin Crisis Walk-In Center, and just a little bit about Telecare, only because it gives you sort of an idea of what type of services we do provide.
Try this one. We're going to try that. That one better?
Yeah, it feels it. I hope so. Telecare, okay. Telecare has been providing services for individuals with serious mental illness since 1965. We're very proud of innovative, outcome-driven programs that are recovery-focused, choice-driven. We treat individuals as unique individuals, everyone as one, which I think makes a very big difference in the type of agencies when you work with and discuss and have services that provide mental health needs. We're in 8 states. We're just opening some new programs in Arizona that we're excited about. But we have been providing services for seriously mentally ill, high-risk individuals with complex needs for a very long time. So it brings us to the Morongo Basin, which I'm excited about as being a nurse in mental health my whole career, 40-plus years. My father graduated, bless his heart, retired from 29. My mom was a high school counselor here in Yucca Valley for 15-plus years. I graduated from Yucca Valley High School a very long time ago. But I think we were the second class, actually, when we separated from 29 Palms. That's how the bell started. But I think many of you know that. So our Crisis Walk-In Center is a 24/7, 365 days out of the year that provides services for anyone, adolescents and adults, that are in mental distress and even when you hear the word crisis, sometimes you go, is it all the way over here? It's folks that need to talk with someone or mental health needs now. And as we know, sometimes things happen, they don't happen 8 to 5. You know, it can happen at 10 o'clock at night, can happen at 2 in the morning. Like I said, we're open 24/7 to provide rapid access to psychiatrists, to nurses, to clinicians. With clinicians, I mean marriage family therapists, licensed social workers. We have staff on site 24/7. In regards to when I speak of mental, distress and what folks are going through, it really can be depression, conflict at home, conflict with children, conflict with your neighbor. You just need a place to come in and talk with someone, hopefully get linkage to services so folks can feel support, after they leave us. Our clients stay with us, and I want you to understand too that when I say 24/7, clients can stay with us up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it's considered an inpatient hospital type. So our folks can stay with us for 23. And we have, I call them lazy boys on steroids, chairs that are very, very comfortable. And we provide food. And as I said, rapid access to psychiatrists and whatever folks need. I lost track for a second. We do serve adolescents, as I said. We're beginning to work a lot more closer with schools. And I think one of the reasons for that is when you're working with children and also adults, I want you to know that we are a program that you can come in the program and be so admitted to the program and stay with us more than 23 hours. But we'll also provide support for you in our lobby or with a phone call. I mean, you don't have to come in and do lots of paperwork and all that. It's about you staying safe, feeling less anxious, like I said, having someone to connect with. So that's and insurance, we're a county provider for San Bernardino County. So insurance does not matter. You can have insurance, not insurance. Everything is paid for through the county contract. So I don't want folks to think that it will cost to come into the program. but it's a very safe, non-threatening. If you're ever even in the area, we're on Santa Fe and Inca. If you're ever even close and want to come in and say hello to our team, if there's no clients in the building, because we actually respect confidentiality, of course, but even if you walk in the lobby, you will feel, I feel, that it's a non-threatening, welcoming, voluntary facility. And I didn't say that as well. It is voluntary. You don't have to come in. You don't have to stay. Okay? It's just about what your needs are. We work very closely with the offices that were just here, actually, in regards to they can bring clients into us. We work very closely with them to keep the community safe and us safe, and the client safe more than anything else. Any questions, or I'm trying to think if I left anything out. I don't think I did. But I mean, if you're able to really, you'll find that it's a very non-threatening, comfortable place. And I think it's so important that you talk to your neighbors about the services that are out in the basin for our folks that are struggling sometimes. And it could be medication, as I said. It could be just, as I said, just having as simple as having a bad day. Because it's not that simple when it's you that's having it. Okay? So, any questions, or?
Thank you for coming. I can think of like 10 people right off the top of my head that I could like to. You're in the old Morongo Basin Mental Health?
Yes.
It seems like there's a couple of entities in there now. Are you on one side or the other? Or?
Yeah, one's the Joshua Tree, Joshua Springs, the school, and then we're in the little corner up on the top. We got the little quarter of the building.
On the east side?
East side. We're really on Inca, not Santa Fe, actually. It's harder to.
What is your hotline phone number?
855, and I brought, if anyone's interested, I'll leave the pamphlets and also business cards for you. 855-365-6558. And it's 24/7. We talk to folks all night. Sometimes it's okay. Okay? And we have the site, we have telemedicine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we Skype with our doctors, and it's actually very interesting, but clients like it, so.
So you're going to leave some of those
Yes.
messages for us. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very needed service. Thank you. And now I know the few people came here with solar on their minds, and with that, we'd like to hear from Dave Miller, who created a short film that is really, I think it's stellar. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it in various community groups. We was at a meeting last week. He showed it in Lucerne, and you'll see how simple he's presented this story, and it's through the California Desert Coalition. Did they fund it?
I'm sorry?
Was it funded by the CDC?
Yes, it was.
And
which is an all-volunteer operation.
Just really, really stellar job. And I hope that you will, after this, you can take the message in this, in Dave's really well-produced video out to your neighbors and get people to understand how simple it could be to solve the problem with choosing large solar farms over distributed rooftop installations. Okay. Hi, Dave. Thank you for coming.
Sure. Just for a little context of how all this came about, the CDC, California Desert Coalition, spent the better part of last year chasing this whole solar issue with the DRECP and BEAT and SPARK and all. It's just this smoke of dense smoke of confusion and complexity from federal input, state input, and all that. And my job as CDC is melting down messages into something that we as normal people can understand and maybe get our arms around and intelligently comment when public comments come up. This one was a real tough one until one of the partners in Ivanpah, there were three principal partners in the Ivanpah debacle, editorial there. NRG, and they were one of the largest investment. They were also the company that arranged for the federal loan guarantees of several $billion, which I mentioned in the film. And he came out of that experience, he's still involved in it as they're trying to make it work. He came out of that experience with a letter that he wrote to his shareholders. And when I saw that letter, it suddenly became very clear that this needn't be as complex or as devastating as all of this bureaucracy is trying to, not trying to make it, but trying to keep it from being that way. So my media is my message. I'll let that do the talking. I apologize for the small screen here. My projector will only go just so big. And is there a light control? Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
There's a very interesting change occurring across the developed world today, and especially within the U.S. energy investment community. Big investments have traditionally been driven by heavily lobbied government subsidies and tax incentives, but this is changing. Here in the Mojave, it's not difficult to understand why the big solar Palin-McCoy project developers are withdrawing, and why other big money developers are now skeptical and reluctant following the disappointing Ivanpah development. Ernest Moniz, the U.S. Energy Secretary, commented while touring the Ivanpah project. He said,
"Companies that are supplying these systems have questionable futures. There's other prospects for renewables and for solar that look a lot better than this particular situation, including rooftop solar systems that are being installed one by one on businesses and homes."
Other huge utility projects being studied for the Mojave are in trouble. The big money investors are discovering that the safe and profitable investments are in a distributed generation clean energy future featuring individual choice and the empowerment of the American energy consumer. One of the first to see this revolution after his company, NRG, partnered with BrightSource Energy and Google is NRG's President and Chief Executive Officer, David Crane. These giants teamed up to build the world's largest solar thermal generating system. It's called the Ivanpah Solar Electric Generating System. Ivanpah received $1.6 billion in federal loan guarantees, without which it would not have gone forward. Today, David Crane is one of the leading voices in the power industry, and with Ivanpah's uncertain future fresh in his memory, NRG's David Crane speaks to his shareholders with this letter. Just a few years ago, the prevailing wisdom was that the path to a clean energy economy depended on our collective willingness to build a nationwide high-voltage transmission system in order to transport electricity in vast quantities from the relentless, windy, and brutally sunny parts of the country where people generally don't live, to the more moderate places where Americans tend to congregate. The folly of that idea, thankfully, was realized before anyone actually began to build such an expensive and pointless white elephant. Now, we are headed for the same goal, but in the opposite direction, down the path towards a distributed, generation-centric, clean energy future featuring individual choice and the empowerment of the American energy consumer. And make no mistake about our children, they will hold us accountable, true believers and climate deniers alike. The day is coming when our children sit us down in our dotage, look us straight in the eye with an acute sense of betrayal and disappointment in theirs, and whisper to us, "You knew, and you didn't do anything about it. Why?" And for a long time, our string of excuses has run something like this. We didn't have the technology. It would have been ruinously expensive. The government didn't make us do it. But now we have the technology, actually the suite of technologies. And they are safe, reliable, and affordable as well as sustainable. They do not represent a compromise to our ability to enjoy a modern lifestyle. They represent an opportunity for us to do the right thing, while multiplying shareholder value through greater value-added services. And these technological solutions are focused on the individual consumer, both businesses and individuals. So the shameful passivity and failure to act of government is irrelevant. The time for action is now. We have run out of time for excuses. Now that's a powerful letter, and from a surprising source. Solar and power storage technologies are advancing very rapidly now, and vibrant new win-win business models are developing almost monthly. New opportunities for local jobs are developing. New local and regional industries are growing, producing revenue that is staying in their communities. Locally generated energy is serving local schools, businesses, and residences, and in many cases while cutting costs. And it's all being driven by energy consumers. It's being driven by all of us. And this trend has huge implications for the large utility-scale energy projects being proposed in our deserts. Every megawatt we generate on a rooftop or a parking lot is one that the utilities won't need to buy from a utility-scale generator. So how many of us will it take to lower the demand to the point where utility-scale generation has no market? That's when the attack on our pristine desert legacy will stop. And it's up to us. Can we shrink the utility-scale market before the backlog of large projects can be permitted? It's beginning. What will our grandchildren share among themselves at the water cooler in, say, 2064? The day is coming when our children sit us down in our dotage, look us straight in the eye with an acute sense of betrayal and disappointment in theirs, and whisper to us, "You knew, and you didn't do anything about it." Why? Here in California, there are visionaries leading counties, cities, businesses, and even local municipalities to take up that challenge. And they are defining a new future for California and our nation. We must be among them.
Just as a point of follow-up, the city of Lancaster, which became one of our deepest studies, is probably going to be net zero by the end of our 2016, our new year here. And they had zero capital to invest in parking lot. Most of those photos that you saw around that section where the car said City of Lancaster, those parking lots and civic buildings, and those are all, that was all put in by Solar City. Solar City is owned by two brothers, and the chairman of the board is Elon Musk, who is going to be the battery king of our new emerging industry. And Elon Musk is about to enter into a shootout with NRG because David Crane finally said, we're going after California. And he's opened up 400 offices in the state of California, one of which is in San Diego. And we need to talk to him about putting up the capital based on power purchase agreements that the Morongo Basin can sign that will let him cover parking lots, let him cover public buildings, this building, and playgrounds and so forth. And what we do is sign a 20-year power purchase agreement at rates that when Sonoma County did this, they said, we're not going to guarantee that this is going to be cheaper, but it'll be greener. So we can guarantee that. So greenhouse gas will be dramatically impacted. When they went online, which was a year and a half ago, they were 12% cheaper. So the two cities that did not want to join the cooperative, like a farmer's co-op, when they initially set it up, jumped right in, and this year 100% of the cities in Sonoma County are on this system, and they have 3 tiers that you can buy, one of which is like $1 a month more, is 100% green energy. So here's the model in a nutshell. We handshake with NRG or Solar City, and there's a dozen of them out there that have the capital to play at this level. And with our population, we're right at the point where we'd be a great test case. And San Bernardino County could be looking over our shoulder going, you know, if this works. So they put in the infrastructure, we sign the power purchase agreement. Edison takes all of these substations that they own the property, and they cut a deal with Elon Musk to put batteries in there. And he stores what we generate above what we use, because we're already, Morongo Basin is almost at net zero. We commissioned a study to find out, and in fact, we're very, very close to being net zero. So we are very probably going to be generating more power than we would use during any hot summer day. That power that can then go to Edison Company to be stored in the battery packs at all of the distribution stations and then redistributed to us at tier 1 prices at night. So there's the model. A little wake-up call.
Is Jennifer here? Did Jennifer Cusack, I saw her walking. Oh, hi. You want to speak to that? I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot here for that.
Yeah, no, I'd love to sit down with Dave and give him some information also just about what we're doing as a company. I mean, we're doing battery technology for our grid, and you know, but the RPS does not include the credit for the for Edison. So we still have to
As a matter of fact,
33%. And then do you want me to stand up at the mic, or does it
I
matter?
know we're putting you on the spot. Jennifer's community relations.
I came here because I knew, you know, and I know we've worked on similar projects, and it's all very, you know, exciting, and it's conversation that needs to happen, you know. And, you know, we are not a power company. We're a wires company.
Exactly.
And so, and the grid is what we're trying to maintain. Do you want me to come up so
Yeah,
you can hear me?
please.
Okay. So, oh, no problem.
My voice typically carries, but you're welcome to do
I'm
it.
probably a softer.
So, I didn't mean to take over the meeting here.
No. And I mean, I would love to sit down with Dave and
We'll
show
do it.
you what we have also going on as far as technology, battery storage. We are entering into many contracts to add battery storage back up to our grid. We also already have storage. I think we have more storage than any other utility. And Edison, in our service territory, we're leading the way as it relates to how to integrate renewable energy into the grid so that it is reliable, because when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, we have to still find a way to have the lights on for you at night. And that's really the challenge, is managing that power in the grid, so wherever that power comes from.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, public policy, we're all subject to that. And that's really where, you know, your discussion takes off with our leaders, our state and our federal leaders on the RPS, renewable energy requirements, that they are requiring utilities to comply with. And that's the challenge. You know, we had great public policy with good intentions, however, unintended consequences. And we that, you know, I grew up in the desert. I graduated from Yucca Valley High School too. You probably went to school with my mom. But anyhow, you know, it's a real discussion that needs to happen in the desert. We're sensitive to it. We're participants just like you. We've been in business in Southern California for 128 years. We'll continue to be. But we are a wires company. It does not matter to us where that power comes from. But what does matter to us is that we can provide safe, reliable, and affordable energy. And so affordability is also the key factor. But I would love to meet with you, and that's why I wanted to come tonight. I wanted to.
I can tell you a little story about Lancaster in our interviewing up there. The city of Lancaster. That's fine. You can hear me, can't you? I tend to. My voice tends.
The camera.
My voice tends to carry. Is that better? Because this is yours here. Okay. Okay. The city of Lancaster, when they signed their power purchase agreement, and this had not been negotiated very often, and in fact, I think they were maybe the second or third time that something like this had been tried. And they signed a power purchase agreement that would not allow them to, they could use all the power they generated, but at the time, Edison, I believe it was Edison, wouldn't allow power to come back into the grid. So they could generate all they wanted, and if they had batteries, they could store it. Well, they went through all their schools and solarized all their schools. But the first thing they did was audit the schools to see what the energy consumption was, so they would know the level to which it needed to be outfitted. After they did that, and signed the contract, and Solar City put the correct amount of solar on the schools, and everything was working great, the state of California gave them a huge grant to upgrade the efficiency of the buildings. So suddenly there's double pane glass coming in, there's extra insulation, so the audit for the need dropped quite dramatically. Well, they ended up, because they couldn't continue to generate that power and do something with it, they actually decommissioned and removed the solar from the schools. So these are some of the lessons that we're learning as these new models are starting to unfold. It's a fascinating journey. Can we do questions?
Yeah, thank you so much for your message. I really like the optimistic view about distributed solar. But I wonder, there's the issue of the federal mandates on that a certain amount of public land be used specifically for renewable energy development. How is that going to be addressed with the models? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, I can tell you that what I'm proposing here is a new conversation.
Right.
The conversation that you're talking about is a DRECP conversation. And that process, along with the BEAT input and the Spark input, better get that right. But the point I'm making here is that if we can move faster by generating what we need, then Edison isn't going to get the order. We don't want to be in the power line business or the transformer business or the substation business, but we do want to be able to buy green power or generate our own green power. So I think they're two completely different subjects, unfortunately inextricably connected, which is unfortunate, but that's what we're facing.
Can you talk a little bit more about the state of the batteries? I mean, the batteries are very expensive. The more they hold, the more expensive they are. Can you give us some figures and ideas?
What I know about batteries, and I'm not attempting to be a battery guy here, but Elon Musk, who owns Tesla and owns SpaceX, who just delivered goods to the space station on a private contract, and also is the chairman of the board of Solar City, has taken on the task of being Mr. Battery. And he's arranged up in Las Vegas to put in the largest domestic plant for study and building of batteries. There's a lot of issues with batteries. When you have that much energy stored, there's a heating issue, if it gets shorted out, there can be explosive issues. So this is not something that's going to be real easily handled. The trick, I think, at least in the way I see it with this model, is that there is no one place where there's enough stored energy to be really dangerous. So that's why I suggest all the substations put in fairly low capacity.
They're ugly. They're an eyesore.
Well, in my book, they'd all be underground. And they're already where the substations are. So, of course. But it means that Edison doesn't have to go and start building huge facilities. They have the land. We already admitted to the fact that those are going to be there. Let's utilize that land in a richer way. So I don't mean to dance around the battery issue. It's a big one.
It's not quite there.
I have a lot of faith in Elon Musk figuring it out.
When you say that did you say this area was a zero net?
Morongo, we hired Bill Powers to look at the entire Morongo Basin. And he audited Edison, he audited solar that was already here. The schools are about to be solarized. He didn't count that in. And he counted the homes that had already been solar. And we have this report from him with all the numbers and everything. And it turns out that we are within, I think it's 2 megawatts of net zero on a sunny day.
And that means that there's enough photovoltaic energy being produced and
no, there isn't enough. But
to survive this neighborhood, I mean,
but if we covered all of the public buildings if we covered, if we could get Walmart to cover their parking lot with some subsidy from NRG, if we could get Home Depot to cover their parking lot, if we could get the car dealership to allow their outside viewing area to be shaded, we think that's a positive for them. But it also, that's a lot of square footage of solar panels.
So what does zero net mean?
It's called net zero, and it's a term that's used in the solar industry to describe when the load and the generation are equal. So on a sunny day with all the air conditioners going in Morongo Basin, we have the capability, nearly have the capability of generating enough power to keep ourselves going until dark.
You mean with clean energy, with solar?
100% solar and some wind, but solar.
And when you talk about Lancaster decommissioning some of their solar modules,
Yeah.
I mean, is there not a way that, that they could have transported that juice somewhere else with those modules that were in place?
Technologically, yes. The city was not set up to even understand the issue. Edison was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you are Edison up there, aren't you? For City of Lancaster?
I believe we do.
I believe.
It's not my area, but it's very complex.
It is very
complex.
complex.
You're simplifying it, but there's a lot more involved. And net zero, we cannot run off 100% solar right now, or probably any time in the future, because the second the cloud comes over, it's going to be a long future.
Right.
But in the wind stops, there's just not enough power, unless we get used to, as a society, not having power during certain points, or at least it flickering. So in order to have the voltage support, we have to have peaker plants and microgrids supported by other alternative fuels also. There's battery backup. I think it's a diversified portfolio of resources. And
yes,
but I would love to discuss and meet with you, and I could even introduce you to some of our engineers that can really dive into this. So, but I encourage your discussion of the topic.
Did they move those energy production modules to other places to utilize them?
Well, they were owned by Solar City, and I suspect that what Solar City did was move them to homes where the power could be utilized.
Yeah, Solar City owned them.
Right. The issue, don't miss the point. The point is that the power purchase agreement was not designed correctly, and that's nobody's fault. It's that nobody's done this before.
Yeah, right. So these batteries that are coming on, is there good information online to get a little insight into the new battery production?
There's a lot of information online. Not a lot of it is scientifically intense or complete, because the players are still in the proprietary mode. That if I can make lithium ion do this over this time and not generate heat, then that's my competitive advantage. So you can play there, but you're not going to get real straight answers.
I'd like to hear more on batteries that are suitable to the residential producer, the rooftop producer. I'd like to hear more about batteries that would be conducive to that producer being able to supply his own power or her own power at night.
Yes. Just in the last 18 months, Solar City has taken on put a program in place that when they solarize a home now, they put battery packs at the home with the idea of leveling the load over a 24-hour period. And of course, it depends on where your house is, where the panels, how much you're generating. So it's a one-on-one basis. But they also realize that nobody wants to go off the grid. That is not a wise thing to do. But what Solar City would like to have you do as a private consumer, as a home, is to minimize what you need to bring from outside that may or may not be green, may or may not be stable, although right now it certainly is, and traditionally. But keep that same promise that Edison has made, that it'll always be 60 hertz exactly, it'll always be 110 volts exactly, And they're trying to get to the point where they can deliver that to your home 15, 20 hours a day. And that'll get, I mean, this is all getting better logarithmically right now. So it's all good news on that front, but we're not there yet. We're just not there.
I just want to, the governor just had his inauguration speech. He said 50%
Yeah.
renewables.
Yeah, everybody seems to be shaking in their boots about that, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing because it's
done right.
It's going to force us
Great
to
thing.
start moving. Yeah, yeah.
And maybe we need to put a lap band on our energy consumption.
Well,
It wouldn't
another
necessarily be flickering lights, but just we conserve water. We need to maybe do it with electricity.
the city of Palm Desert, one of the first lessons they learned was that, and their target was not go solar. Their target was reduce greenhouse gas. So they found that before they did anything solar, before they did anything, because they don't have any place to put solar panels, I mean, other than parking lots and things like that, they don't have open land. So they said, let's incentivize some programs to change out things like swimming pool pumps, which were running year-round, even when nobody was there, because there's a lot of places there where people aren't there year-round. So, and that was hugely successful. So they started looking at incentives to insulate, to double pane window, and that led them into, let's cover our parking lots, let's cover our public buildings. Oh gee, we might actually be able to generate what we need during the daytime hours. And now CVAG, the whole government group down there, is using that as the model, and they're promoting that now across all of the Coachella Valley cities.
That's really hopeful.
So it's working, it's just we're not over the fence yet.
Yeah, what I read was that over 60% of the energy consumption in California is pumping water. Mainly moving water from the Colorado River up over these passes, and that the energy used industrially is the big problem. That the residential guy, but I mean, does any of these programs go towards being able to help solve those issues?
Not in the case studies that we looked at, because we were looking at municipalities, at cities, and at counties. And even in some cases, what they call microgrids, or basically neighborhoods.
You know, actually, I was on the B team, and I wrote about local strategies with regards to the city of Lancaster.
Yeah.
And did quite a bit on that. So I totally agree with you. I'm curious about the Sacramento model with the Sacramento nonprofit and how that becomes instrumental in our neighborhood and what the benefits would really be if that model could be supplanted over your concepts.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. In fact, a copy of this was sent to Governor Brown, so not by me, but by a third interested party who was connected. I said, I'll see that he sees this. David?
I saw the seal of the county on the very last part of that video.
Yeah.
Why was that there?
Because this was designed originally to show to the Board of Supervisors, nobody else, just to show to them. And I put that there because I wanted this to be a personal message to them, that this is your responsibility, your opportunity. And I haven't removed it because the closing line, we must be among them. This county has probably more sunshine than any 3 counties in the rest of the country. We're the largest county in the nation, and we're mostly in sunshine. So
6.5 hours a day, they say.
we have the opportunity to set a model in place here that could rock a lot of boats. Mike, tell me, take control if you need to.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
2 more questions.
Actually, it's just sort of tying back to your question. There are a lot of products, or a few products coming on the market now for the residential that lets you choose how you want to interface with the grid. One, I think it's Outback Solar Systems, I think it's called Flex Power 1 or something like that. And you can have the batteries, and they're upgrading the batteries too, and you can be still connected to the grid as well. It kind of switches. And that was not in existence, like 5 years ago. So it's all new.
Not 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Now this is
Pretty
all,
exciting, it's just incredibly expensive.
it's a moving target happening very, very quickly.
What's the percentage of panels that are made in the U.S.?
I don't have the answer to that. a low percentage, which is one of the comments that we've made to the board supervisors was part of what this is about is local jobs, local revenue, and we could be manufacturing those panels in our county. So why aren't we?
Is it true the CPUC is fighting home ownership of panels and systems? Or
I think that might have been true a couple of years ago. I haven't heard that in recent times.
Yeah.
It would be very unpopular to be outwardly fighting it because it doesn't make sense.
In fact, they've incentivized. So yeah, I think that's not true. And
Yeah.
It hasn't been true. They've approved incentives to help to encourage rooftop solar.
Right.
To bring the price of panels down.
Right. And Edison's on board with
Yeah, we helped put those incentives and just like with anything, but with anything, it's about cost. And solar panels have traditionally been more expensive of a technology. That's why the incentives were necessary. Now that the cost of the panels have come down, then the incentives have tiered off. And really, it's really up to the homeowner to see if some people are actually paying more to have solar than they would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about reducing carbon footprint, I think was the overall goal of some of this policy and these incentives. And when we look at that low-hanging fruit, I think just as society, we have a pretty clean energy sources, especially in California, because of the proactive policies. But we are starting to look at vehicle electrification and other ways to reduce our carbon footprint, and that's where I think we need to be focused at carbon footprint.
But please don't misunderstand. One of the underpinnings of this is not to make Edison the bad guy, because Edison is a partner in this, has been forever. And one of the reasons that my view of this can be so bold is that I know Edison is always, that's why I say you don't want to go off the grid, because that promise to always have 60 hertz, always have 110 volts, 24/7, we're going to be, if you get really good at this, we're going to be your backup. And nobody wants to put in new lines, and nobody wants to be linemen and transformers and distribution. Nobody does it better. So that's where the partnership comes in, and that's where people like Elon Musk comes in with his batteries, and that's where people like NRG come in with their Wall Street billions.
One more question, and then I think time is
Thank you for all this time.
Speaking about the panels, I watched a program entitled Pandora's Promise, and it stated these panels give off toxic fumes once they have heated up. Is that true? And what type of a toxic fume are they talking about?
Some do, some don't. I don't have the exact chemical content of that gas. The newer generations don't, and some of them don't because they're sealed in an acrylic or a sealer. Some don't because they're changing the technology.
So how do we find out? We're looking at solar in Lander.
Mm-hmm.
How do we find out what type of panels they're going to be using?
I don't have an answer to that other than to go to the manufacturer and say, can you guarantee me that this is of the generation that doesn't
Yeah, because we talk
outcast?
about carbon footprint, so we're replacing one with another.
Yeah, with a different poison. Yeah. No, we do need to be that diligent. Because again, we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Let me. Thanks for all the minutes.
I just wanted to add on to that. This has been a really interesting conversation. This conversation does not exist within the DRECP because rooftop solar point of use energy is not considered as the megawatt they're working towards. It's very odd, as a matter of fact. And so I have here, and I just could never print out 10 pages worth of material, but it's I just lost the word. Petition. Right, it's a petition that was put together by Bill Powers and the Basin and Range Watch people, Laura Cunningham and Kevin Emmerich, and with a lot of other input and with a lot of sign-ons to ask that there be an alternative that is a rooftop solar alternative in the DRACP. This is a really good petition. If you are interested in signing on to it yourself, you can do that because I have a piece of paper here and all I need is your name and the town that you live in. And if you give me your email address, I will email it to you so you can read all 10 pages. And I will also email you the list of groups that have already signed on, which actually includes Center for Biological Diversity, Western Watersheds Project, Desert Tortoise Council, Desert Protection Society, California Wilderness Coalition. You know, this is plus individuals. So I'll be glad to send it, but I won't print it. Anyhow, I have that up here, and anybody who would like to sign on, I welcome it.
Thank you. And the next part of our agenda is, in related matter, is a summary of where we stand right now in the basin as far as solar development, and is particularly in industrial scale. And Marina was good enough to volunteer to present that to us. Marina West.
Thank you, Mike. Can you hear me all right, Bob? Okay. Mike just asked me to give you an update of the issues surrounding the Landers S-Power solar project. So I'll just read our latest quote-unquote newsletter to those in our community that are interested in this matter. So regarding this industrial solar farm proposal by the S-Power Maybet Family Trust to build a 35-acre, 3-megawatt photovoltaic solar farm on Bowman Trail just south of Retchie Road in Landers. We're asking that that those who review this information follow it so that we focus our efforts in the right direction and not get sidetracked. Number one, currently our most important concern is to connect with any residents or landowners that believe that their property is in close proximity to any of the ground disturbance activities in the vicinity of the project. If you know of someone or you are someone who fits this description and you haven't contacted myself or one of our team, please do so. Number two, the appeal was filed against the project by the Landers Association, a social welfare group, and others. It was accepted by the county as complete. The appeal will be heard. Did we get confirmation on this yet? Okay. The appeal will be heard in the public forum no sooner than March 17th. Luck of the Irish, it would be. We fully expect that to be the actual date. The association has concurred that they would accept that date. However, final confirmation has not been received. Number three, if you were to visit the actual site location, you would discover that County of San Bernardino Code Enforcement, Building and Safety Division of Land Use Services has red tagged the project location. This means that S-Power indeed initiated project development without appropriate permits and approvals, and our efforts stopped that. Number four, many residents of Landers attended the Board of Supervisors meeting from the teleconference center here in Joshua Tree. We also had resources positioned in the actual county chambers to observe proceedings. Our testimony during the 3-minute general comment period was calculated and succinct. We planned a message using 3-minute increments with an intro and an ending. As usual, there were other community members with differing views, but that is the beauty of our democracy, right? Many from surrounding communities also came in silent support of the cause. And you might ask why. Probably because projects like this one, as proposed and as approved by land use, or as approved by the Planning Commission, affect our quality of life for all of us. We believe that our mission to provide that commentary at the January 6th meeting was successful. Number five, subsequent to the Board of Supervisors meeting on our member of our team alerted us to activity at the intersection of Bowman and Retchie by a SoCal Edison electrical contractor. We discovered that these specific activities were in fact electrical upgrades related to the S-Power project. And again, rapid response by our members of our community team resulted in direct contact with Edison, thank you, Jennifer, that agreed to halt that specific work. Formal complaints were again filed with code enforcement, and I must say our efforts are proving successful and effective. However, we've also discovered in the process that SoCal Edison contractors are doing other electrical improvements and upgrades along Border, Winters, Retchie, and possibly other routes. While we cannot confirm if these other activities are not directly related to S-Power, there is some indication that they are separate. And we were seeking some formal response from Edison, and maybe Jennifer can give us that tonight, maybe not. But we have some reason to believe that there are upgrades going on that are not related to S-Power. So regardless, Edison has stated that they have halted all of their work orders related to the S-Power project, and we should respond by keeping our distance from the contractors unless we see them on Bowman Trail again before our appeal is heard. And number 6, lastly, we report that we have confirmation that the County of San Bernardino Land Use Services has knowledge of a draft proposal by a separate developer. The site is located south of the S-Power site on Bowman. It is a 60-acre, 7.5 megawatt. Now, the proposal has not yet been accepted as complete by the county. And once it is accepted, then that public review process will commence, but not before. So part of our overall plan is to present ourselves as responsible, professional, knowledgeable, and united, and we have accomplished that to date. We do not benefit our collective mission if we try to speak out about this new project or other projects now, but we do want to keep you informed. So the point is that although the county is aware there's an application out there possibly going to come back, they do not have it in hand, and it doesn't benefit us to call and ask about it because they will not really give you information for a project they don't have a submittal for. So our message there is at least wait until we have relevant details before making calls to county about this newly discovered project so that we can focus on our S-Power appeal. But we will inform the community if we find any more facts about that. And if you'd like to be on our mailing list, we do have an email list, but we also have folks willing to make phone calls to give you updates. If you'd like to be added to that, let me know at the end of the meeting. I'd be happy to keep you or to add you to that list so you can get our routine updates. And that concluded my report on S-Power, Mike.
Thank you so much. There are some other projects happening concurrently, and before we talk more about Landers or any other projects, before we turn it over to you all, basically, there is the Joshua Tree Airport proposed project, and I think Mark has an update on that.
Not really a technical update, but we do have a public meeting which was noticed. Notices went out today, an agenda went out, and it is Thursday. I'm sorry, at the 15th at 3:30 at the county building. The meeting was requested by Jess Mellon of Xterra, the company that wants to put a solar farm on the existing Joshua Tree Airport. We're going to listen to what he has to say, and the public is invited, so if you've got some time on Thursday at 3:30, drop by the county building, and we'll see what he has to say. And if there's any questions about that, it's pretty clear. I think that what he wanted to do is make some proposals, and I think that was in part of his request for the meeting. So we'll be interested to hear those proposals and any comments from the audience, and we'll try to do it in an orderly manner. So again, 3:30, the 15th, this Thursday at the county building. Thank you.
I think those are the only two projects really in the hopper at the moment. But I know Jennifer wants to speak to, is that right?
I can.
Yeah, would you to Edison's role out there in Landers? before we go on. Thanks.
So I knew there would be questions, so I wanted to be here tonight just to address them. So can you hear me now?
Turn it
on.
You got it.
Okay, here we go. So I did look into the other work that is happening on border, and I have learned that it is a separate work order. It's a circuit reliability job, and they are turning a single-phase circuit into a three-phase circuit, which is similar to many of our circuits. So what it does is it creates system redundancy. And so you'll notice there are circuits running through like downtown Joshua down here that are 4 wires. That was 2 wires. That's a single-phase circuit going up border. We will add the wires so that it matches the other circuits. So when power is taken off of that circuit, it can be backfed from another circuit. And this is what we call an RGT, or Regional Grid Team Project. And those are usually based on metrics we have for outages. So of course we have maybe a car hit pole or a lightning strike, and we track every outage and the number of seconds that customers are out, the number of customers, and then we use that data to plan grid upgrade projects. And this is one of those that was identified as needing grid redundancy. So we have some 4.8 kV lines out here. We have some single-phase circuits that really need to be 3-phase circuits. And we're doing a lot of work throughout the Morongo Basin. We're doing pole replacements, circuit upgrades, automatic switching, and just to our regular distribution grid just to meet the current needs. And that's what this project is. So it's completely separate. So the work order that was tied to S-Power, we did put on hold. And of course, pending the county's decision. But this work order is completely separate. It started in August and will continue. I believe they're going to be doing the lines until the 21st. And then we'll be connecting it to the other circuits and adding some switches and that sort of thing. But we're doing a lot of that work. We're going to be doing vault replacements. We did one in Yucca Valley. We're doing a lot of pole replacements out in this area. In fact, I'm going to each city to give them some information about the pole replacements in their cities, and there's going to be a lot in the unincorporated area. We had a contractor come through and inspect every one of our poles, and so that is going to result in some pole replacements. There was a major windstorm in the Monrovia area that took out a lot of poles, and there's been some other down wires that have changed the CPUC requirements for pole loading. So now we're having to re-inspect and re-pole load or reload all of our poles and inspect for any visual damage or potential break. And so that's what this is. So you're also going to see a lot of pole replacements. And these are onesie, twosie work orders. They're work orders that come through, they get scheduled. It takes about 4 to 6 hours for them to do. You'll see a crew come out and they'll replace the pole. Completely unrelated to any solar project. It is simply just maintenance on our system. And we're doing a lot of that. So you're going to see an increased activity throughout the entire Morongo Basin. We're doing it in Palm Desert, we're doing it in Palm Springs, we're doing it everywhere. I cover Palm Desert, I cover Indian Wells, Rancho Mirage, Blythe, Yucca Valley, 29 Palms, and we're doing this through our entire service territory. So I just want to assure you that not all activity is related to the solar project, and that all activity related to that particular solar project has been halted. And thank you, Mike. And there was another citizen, Mike, that called me that day to make me aware of that. And I just want to encourage you just not to approach our crews and distract them from the work that they're doing, because they have a very dangerous job. They're often working with heights and electricity. Sometimes they'll do this work live without de-energizing the lines, and it can be quite dangerous. And when they get distracted, it could potentially cause them to have an accident. And so my number's available. Mike has my number, my cell phone number. Many of you have my cell phone number. You're welcome to call me anytime. So I just want to encourage you to call me if you have questions. Yes, Judy, I'm sorry.
I understand, I get the gist of what you're saying about the border thing, but what I couldn't figure out, and I've been watching it going on for a little while, is on the west side of the border, you're putting all those three-phase poles down into nowhere. And what does that have to?
No, those loop. It completely ties in and feeds the community. So that circuit feeds all of landers. So these aren't going into nowhere. That's where your power comes from.
Well, it looks like
Okay.
it's going in. There's nothing out there. You gotta follow.
No, we're out there, Judy.
That's not what I'm talking about. The other side of the road. Go on the job, Blake.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to take questions.
I think there's a burning desire for this.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
How do you grow those trees that grow
So straight.
so straight?
I do not know. That's a good question.
Genetically bred or what?
I think most lumbering is, so I'll have to look into that for you then. Yes, sir.
SCE makes these PPAs with very little public involvement. Comes the question, are these PPAs public documents?
No, those are power purchase agreements, and a lot of these power purchase agreements that currently exist fall under tariff programs presented by the CPUC, and they're competitively bid, and there's like lottery periods of time where they apply and they have to meet certain criteria. But just because they have a PPA does not mean that they're going to be developed. That's like first step number one, and these PPAs have been sold over time, and then they have to go through a grid interconnection process.
Do these PPAs last forever?
No, they have expirations.
How do we know they don't last forever?
I don't know. You'd have to look into each PPA, but they're not. They're a contract, and they're competitively bid, and yeah.
You just told us they are not public documents. How do we find out when a PPA ends?
You'd probably have to call me about each one. Maybe I can find out about each one. I mean, it depends on. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, and I'll see what I can release. But you know, some of these are. It's a public. It's not. Yeah. Some of it's not public. Some of it may be, but.
Part of the problem with the Joshua Tree Airport is a floating PPA that was done for land to the south of the airport. They found out they didn't get the southeast of the airport, they went to the north, which is the airport.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's SCE. And PPA.
We enter into PPAs, we're required to sign so much megawatt under each PPA tariff, and so that's what they did. It was an open, and this happened years ago. This wasn't even now. This was a couple years ago.
That's why I'm interested in, because it might be expired, or it might be expiring soon.
It could be.
And we don't know.
Yeah.
What's PPA?
Power purchase agreement. So we have a power purchase agreement with all power sources that we buy power from. And actually, net energy metering, we buy power from people who have a meter and a solar panel on their house. It's a net energy metering contract, essentially. And actually, we pay a retail rate for the power that's generated off of a house, which is higher than most or all PPAs because you're getting credit at the retail rate. And then PPAs, of course, they're competitively bid. There were some subsidized PPA tariffs that the CPUC required, or the CEC, the California Energy Commission. So it depends on the contract, depends on what PPA it is, it depends on what program they were under.
Could we find out about the Roy Williams Airport one?
Yeah, you can give me some information and I'll see what I can find out. You know,
There's going to be a meeting on Thursday with this.
Yeah, you can call me. I don't know how quickly I can get it, but you can call me, give me the specifics. I don't track these. There's just so many out there. I don't track the PPAs. And I mean, I saw the list, and I think some of it's available on the CEC website, but yeah, I'm not real familiar with PPAs.
Can they last years?
Yeah, I'd have to look at them and see. I don't know. Well, I'm sure once they're executed, but I don't know.
Does it relate to a specific feed pole that would be where the PPA is centered, and then it's just a matter of getting to that pole?
I don't know. I'd have to get you information, and each PPA is going to be different, and it depends on what tariff that the PPA was signed under, because there are different types of PPAs.
It was a RAM.
Okay, so we'll have to get more information on that for you. And if you can give me information, you know, and then there's also the California Energy Commission, and I also encourage you to contact them because they have information about a lot of those programs that were incentivized programs essentially to get developers to invest money into renewable power sources.
Who do you talk to at the CEC?
It's on their website. Yeah, I don't speak to anybody specifically there, but all of these power purchase agreements, and well, that's how we purchase power. But some of these programs were CEC and CPUC programs. Yeah, so, but I can look into it for you. Just contact me offline, because right now it's hard to speak to general questions.
So one more question?
Can you tell us if there's any poles on this upgraded three-phase line on border that might find themselves connected to a PPA?
The whole grid's connected to itself, each other.
So
Everything's connected. We're connected to Arizona, we're connected to Nevada. The idea of a system like a water system, you want it looped, right? You want it looped. And that's what we're doing. We're looping the system for reliability, and we're upgrading. Actually, in the next, I think 2017, 2018, we're actually going to be upgrading 4.5 kV circuits to the 16 kV circuits. And we're just doing a lot of work on a system that needs work. And I think reliability has improved, and from what I can tell, talking to people who live in some of the outlying areas, the rural areas, the reliability, and it has improved, and they've experienced less outages, and our data has shown that. And we continue to track data, and we still have, I get a list every couple months on worst circuit reliability, and so that spurs projects like that, pole replacements. But I can't guarantee that just because that pole's not going to
As a single-phase pole,
connect to them, because we all connect to each other.
Connected now, so as a three-phase pole,
Yeah, but that line is not being built for the purpose of serving as power. That is a circuit reliability project that was planned completely independent from that project.
not potentially others.
And not others. An RGD project is not planned with the intent of new development projects. It is specifically to address reliability performance issues. And so that I just want to make sure that we track a number of outages. If we have so many millions of seconds of outages, it will generate a project like an RGT, regional grid team project, and that money gets allocated based on poor performing circuits, based on current customer outages. Yes, sir.
Here's an easy one. How many power poles have been replaced along Highway 62 in the last 5 years?
Oh, don't know. How many car hit poles in the last 5 years? I don't know.
So, well, that should be looked up because Caltrans should know.
Well, are they replaced because of deterioration? Are they replaced because of car hit pole?
Well, we've gone underground. Most of what's going to happen is they were going underground, the latest, and they did between Joshua Tree and White Fence.
That was a Rule 20A project. In Rule 20A projects, there is funding collected through ratepayer money that allows Edison to underground or pay for, it allows the county to allocate their money that's been set aside through ratepayer money to underground certain portions of lines. And there's certain criteria for a Rule 20A project, one being along a highway corridor like that. And so the county of San Bernardino actually elected to use their Rule 20A allocation and underground that portion. But that is not the common practice of utility. It is very expensive. It is not necessarily more reliable. And, but yet it is aesthetically better. And of course you get a new system out of it. So now we have that longer longevity of those lines. But undergrounding, in some communities have elected to pay to have lines undergrounded.
Thank you. We should stop it there because I find it fascinating, but I see other people might be. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I know Mr. Johnson Phil Johnson, I know you had a public comment you were interested in making along those lines. Is that still?
My comment kind of got answered.
I got answered. Okay. Did it? Okay. Okay. Then we're going to move on to, our action items were tabled. The sheriff's agreement because waiting on Captain Mondre until he comes back to town with some new information. And the Altamira project, I understand they're going through doing some extensive reworking of that, so we don't know we have no idea what it is. They've asked us to please halt any action as far as a resolution until they can come back and tell us all about what they plan, which is probably maybe good news. And so if we'll move on to community and officer and committee reports, if we could start at, let's change it up. How about that end of the table? You mind?
Oh, no, I don't mind at all.
Thanks.
Mary Helen Tuttle, Copper Mountain Mesa. I am very grateful for the replacement of poles, so that way when the wind blows or I get a little bit of rain, I don't lose power. So I'm very grateful for seeing SCE's presence on border. So thank you, Jennifer. I'll bring the boys coffee if you want. No, I won't interrupt them. I wave to them when I go out and say thank you and give them the peace be with you. And, I am very happy to see that. So at our little community center out on Waichurch Road in the middle of nowhere where there are no electric poles.
I'm talking about the
I'm just giving you a hard time. Okay. We have a very exciting website. We have some people in our membership who are much more with it than I. So I invite you to coppermountainmesa.org. And the most exciting thing, me as treasurer took a leap of faith and put a PayPal button on it. So people can donate or do their memberships online. It's really kind of big for us. So I'm excited about that. I don't know if anybody else would be. That's all I got.
Well, I thank you, Jennifer, because now I know what the cars are doing. We're going, what are they doing? And that takes care. I don't have anything particular to report from Desert Heights. I've been working with the lenders people and also spending a lot of time on the DRECP. So until February 23rd, that's probably where my head is.
February 23rd being the end of the comment
That's
period.
the end of the comment period. And anybody wants to sign on to this, please do so.
Gail Swart, Morongo Valley.
Microphone?
We have,
All right. Am I on? Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, cool. Morongo Valley, I'm Gail Swart. We are working on collecting money for a new fire truck for our fire department, and we're on GoFundMe at Morongo Valley Fire. And so far we've collected a little over $6,000 on that site, and with other contributions we now have about $15,000. Of course we need quite a bit more, but we have a lot of things going on that are going to help us raise money, and we have an individual in the low desert that has a business that's also helping us with getting some contributions from the low desert. So we're working at that to make sure that everyone who passes through Morongo Valley and needs help from our fire department will be well served. And I'll keep you posted as to how far along we get.
Thank you. If everybody in this room just gave $20,000, they'd be that much closer to that fire truck. It's expensive, and they're working. They have a lot of programs going on. Thank you. In Landers, a lot is going on in Landers. May I tell your story, Mrs. Shea?
Oh, yeah.
Barbara Shea, who came in, came to this meeting with a lot on her mind, but she lives right on Bowman Trail, where the proposed solar plant will be located. And we know that without permits, they dug up a lot of lawns and laid Edison. Well, they dug up a lot of dirt and laid the lines that were in anticipation of this plant. And they then got red tagged, and they had to cease all construction. And they pulled out. In fact, the rental company came and picked up their crane, and a lot of their equipment is still stored over there. And apparently, they must be feeling iffy about how the hearing or how the appeal will turn out. They must be feeling like it might not turn out in their favor, because this week or today, Ms. Shea got
it was in the mail.
A letter came saying that potentially she might have a lien placed on her property for $4,000 to pay for the excavation of the line in front of her home because SCAR hasn't paid the contractor. So that's not a slap in the face. So.
Very clearly, preliminary notice. And then this is not a lien, but then in the body it said we could place a lien on your property for $4,200 for the work they did. Not for you.
No, power's going out of town. So I'm sorry to laugh, but it is like a comedy of errors.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, a little shocking too. Thank you. And also the point in time, this is not just Landers, but Basin-wide on the 22nd of January is the point in time count. It's part of a nationwide census to count the homeless populations, and we will be conducting it centered out of the office in the county building on January 22nd. We're going to try to count from between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. As many homeless people in the basin as we can. It does not include people who are couch surfing or if the in-laws moved into the front lawn in the fifth wheel. It is just people who literally don't have a roof over their head. This one-day short period snapshot of what it looks like nationwide. And from that count, HUD will determine how monies to support the homeless are distributed around the country. So it's important, if you know anybody that's homeless or you want to volunteer for that effort, let me know and we'll get you involved. In a related matter, the Morongo Basin Haven, which is the sort of the umbrella group for to provide information to the homeless here and potentially homeless people in Morongo Basin, all the resources that are available. So it's sort of a collecting house. It meets right now every other month. Our next meeting is this Friday in the county building and at 10 o'clock. So if you're interested, please come. And the only other thing in Landers is that several of us attended a meeting in Lucerne Valley last week where they're attempting to put together different community groups who are interested in forcing the idea of the DRECP considering rooftop solar as part of the plan. So because right now it's not even considered in the DRECP, it's skipped over, and it seems like an omission that lots of people would like to see included. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mark.
Hi, Mark. Is it on? Yeah. Mark Lundquist from Joshua Tree. And we got a few things going on. Thanks, David, for the update. He does part of my job every meeting with the update on the Dollar General. So thanks, David. Joshua Tree, downtown second Saturday nights. Every second Saturday of the month, they have an art, food, music, and shopping bonanza in downtown Joshua Tree. So take advantage of it. It's a lot of fun. Joshua Tree, second item is Joshua Tree Art Gallery. It has a rock, paper, and scissors event. And that's going on through February 7th, and that's at 6 a.m. And you can, they've got about 75 different artists on display through that gallery, so take a look. And the Desert Institute, the Black Rock Lecture Series is going on now at the Copper Mountain College, and it's let me see, it's from 7 to 8:30 at Friday, right? Yeah, so you can take advantage of that. And in fact, you can look on the Desert Institute at www.joshuatree.org, and it'll give you a schedule of all the events and lectures that are going on at that. And that's at the Helen Gray Center, isn't it, at the college? Or I mean the Bell Center at the college, yeah. And that's about it for Joshua Tree. One thing I wanted to mention is I saw Mike was give kudos to him for his work at the 29 Theater. Yeah, I guess you're building sets and things back there, yeah. So he was honored for that. So he's, besides doing this, he's building sets at theaters on the side. And I got to tell you on Jennifer that I was probably one of the offenders. I did have an innocent guy in the first for about a week now in our neighborhood, and I half stopped to ask him what he's doing, and he said, I don't know. He said, I think I'm looking at poles. But this guy had a Edison truck with an Edison hat on. He had a tripod with a pair of binoculars on it, and he had a T-shirt over his head with the holes cut out for his eyes, and that's it. So you guys are training him well. He didn't want to be recognized, I'm sure. Yeah, and that's it for Joshua Tree. Thanks.
Probably it for Yucca Mesa too. We've been really involved in trying to figure out the Landers solar problem, and I've been talking to a lot of people, and you know, the people just don't want these things, and I don't know how we get the message across. I don't know, do we take a cannon and shoot it at the supervisors or what? Okay, have a good evening, folks.
Did you forget something, Mary Helen? Did you have something to add?
No, did I?
Okay, I did. And what I did forget was that the end of a long process in Landers, that we've been looking to have water move from county special districts to Bighorn Desert View Water Agency, and it's been really tedious and slow going. And it looks like on the 21st, the item will be considered by LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Commission, in San Bernardino. They'll have a public hearing. From what I've been told, it looks very good. The LAFCO is recommending that it be approved, and so I don't anticipate any big problems. I think the number of people will be going down to show their support, but I think it will be ultimately ruled in people Landers' favor. It doesn't mean right away it will do the switch. That will happen toward, I think all eyes are on the end of the fiscal year, the end of June, and then Marina says, there'll be a lot of growing pains. People still sending their bill, their check to the county, and after this changeover, things like that. But after a little bit of growing pains, it should be smooth, and we can expect a little cheaper, more reliable water service. That's it for Landers. We got one more minute if anyone from the public wants to add anything. Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you so much for coming.